got some amazing news for Gran Turismo 7. But before we can actually give you the good news, let's start off with the bad news because that has been circling around for, well, ever since it came out today. When we first saw Gran Turismo on the PlayStation Showcase, we didn't quite know kind of what was going on. It was a lot of guessing as to what the trailer was doing. You know what I mean? They showed a lot of kind of like day and night transitions and things of that nature. It was very artsy, but we didn't quite know what exactly any of that shit meant. And now we have a concrete metric ton of information that I'm going to read to you. But like I said before, we're going to talk about the bad news. So, Digital Foundry and some other places stated that they saw some ray tracing in the trailers and a little bit of a frame rate issue here and there. And so people can just kind of assume that this was basically real time. And it is. We just found out at the moment there is no ray tracing for when you're actually controlling the vehicles, like the actual races. Um, but the creator did say for now that's what it's going to be. And we do know with GT Sport, they've added a lot of different things there, such as weather and stuff like that. But let's get to the nitty gritty. I don't know if they at, if there's a YouTube video somewhere out there right now, but we're going to read a lot of this stuff. So one of the things I want to talk about here that I found out here is that the only part of the game that doesn't require an online connection is arcade mode because that has no effect on the save data. So that's possible. But anything that has to do with the save data requires a connection. For example, like library data, as well. That's something that is downloaded from the online server. Now, what this is in regard to is that there were people that were kind of concerned with what were they concerned with? They was concerned that you still needed to be connected online, just like it is for a GT Sport. Now they gave a reason. Whether you say it's a good or bad reason, I don't know. I'm just delivering the news. Essentially, they basically was like, well, the reason why we did this is because we wanted to prevent cheaters that could manipulate the data and stuff like that. So that's what's going on with that. The meat of this. Okay, so the next thing that I figured out here too, or I read up on, whether I figured out like I'm a fucking reporter. My apologies. Whether or not we actually implemented a 24-hour race is something that we are still deciding on. And keep in mind that there are some 24-hour endurance races in GT 2, 3, and 4, and there were no day and night cycles with that one. So you don't necessarily need that. But this is in regard to weather changes. So they said, but the weather simulation is actually a weather simulation, not just a weather change. So it does have an effect on the physics of the game. I think that will be very interesting. Also, you can set multiples of time that it takes for you that it takes from real time to get 100 times accelerated. So you don't necessarily need to have a full-on endurance race in order for the player to experience those weather changes and how it affects the cars on track. Basically, they mean that they can speed up the weather and how it accumulates and stuff like that. This is specifically for the weather. There's some other things with the weather too. Now, apparently, when you're racing, some racers on the PC actually have the rubber accumulated on the track as well. That's something that GT7 doesn't have. We don't have a system for simulating the amount of rubber that is laid on the track, but we do have a simulation for where the rain would create a level of water on the track. When a car passes over it, it will spray aside, and so the racing lines will dry quicker than the other parts of the track. That's something that is simulated, and it does affect the grip of the course accordingly as time goes on, and the track begins to dry in different places. The air temperature, humidity, and then the road surface temperature also will be affected by these weather changes as well. So it's not just a look, it is an actual effect. And it's pretty cool. If you're right, if you have one of these races and the same cars are running over this spot, it's going to make that dry spot as well. Humidity also has an effect, just like in the real world. on how the tires are sticking to the road and stuff like that. So I mean, it is a simulator. People say that it's a SimK thing because it doesn't replicate all the things as well. But whatever. Now on to damage. They said that basically it's very similar to GT Sport, except that it is expressed a little different, more improved in comparison. So that's what's going on there. So don't expect doors to fly off or anything like that. It's basically like sport, and that has a lot to do with the manufacturers. They don't want their cars to look fucked up. That's just that. I actually want to go back to the ray tracing thing because a lot of people were complaining about this. There's certain things that you can do, you can't do with 60 frames per second. You can't. There's a lot going on. The ray tracing at 60 frames in a day and night cycles, that's a lot. It's a tall order. Anyway, when it comes to PS4 and PS5, there will be crossplay. It's just that it loads way instantaneous basically on the PS5. The quality, basically, the quality for the PS5 versus the PS4, since it's a cross-generation game, will be apparent. It's going to be worse effects on the PS4, but it is a feature. It's parity. It's feature parity basically throughout the whole game, even though, but day and night cycles. So they talk about the adaptive triggers and just the dual sense in general. Things like using adaptive triggers or recreating the vibrations of the anti-lock brake system when it's working. Gimmicks like that is one thing. That's more important to me is the precision of the controls that the new controller allows. Before there were things that you could only really do with a steering wheel. But now you'll be able to do everything that you can do with the steering wheel controller, such as the DualSense controller. Um, and then I'm reading here. Let me make sure I see this here. I don't think this is anything. This they'll talk about progression. We don't want to talk about that. Nah, that. For the time being, this is what I was saying before too. For the time being, you could choose ray tracing and the replay even during the game, and then you will see the stage demo and the picture with ray tracing applied to the garage. So basically, that kind of tells you that what I was saying earlier. Replays in garages is where the ray tracing reflections are going to be. In a racing game, you can adjust the level of detail technology wise. And this is they're talking about the scalability of the actual PS4 to PS5. So they say in a racing game, you can adjust the level of detail. Technology wise, it is very scalable in terms of maintaining the frame rate and everything else. We found that we were able to make the PS4 version and the PS5 version without dropping the quality. So that's why we decided to do both at the same time. So essentially, they're looking at the core game, you know what I'm saying, and what can be applied and what cannot be applied. So more of basically with the PS5 versus less of with the PS4. You can just start adding features using the base game essentially. Um, we were talking about the loading times, and this is where it was confirmed by Yamauchi. The time and weather changes are continuous in real time, he confirmed. You're also able to set progressions of certain races to multiples that you want. The weather simulation is being done on a very large scale. It is a shame to just call it a weather change feature because it's really is a full-on weather simulation. I don't know if you remember this, but I was looking at a video earlier, yesterday, and when you look at the trailer, you'll see the God rays coming in. That's indicative of humidity and stuff like that. That was in real time, by the way, too. So, also, I just figured this out too. There's two modes in GT7. You'll be able to choose between two visual modes on PS5. Image quality and performance. One of them will feature a 4K 60, although they don't specify the dynamic resolutions and stuff like that. Um, what else do we have? Looking at all the tracks at variable time. Oh, and then lastly, I'll say this too, and we can close the book on this one because I wanted to say something else about ray tracing. Not all the tracks will have the dynamic weather and the dynamic day of time of day. This is something that is very typical of Polyphony Digital. They usually do shit like this. It's always, half-assed to be honest with you. But then again, in this particular case, it's probably certain levels, but just like a desert level, you're not going to get snow in that level. But either way, the way that I look at it, and I hope they kind of improve on it, is the actual um the weather, like the rain that accumulates on a windshield. So that's what I kind of want them to do. you know. So that's how I figured. And I don't know why this froze. Hello. But I think I need to. Well, I'm probably gonna be frozen. Hold on. I don't know why this shit did this. Hold on. So I had to break the video into two different pieces, which I don't like doing. Urgh. But it's whatever. The screen went to sleep and it just froze everything. The thing I want to talk about is just ray tracing in general and what it brings to the table when it comes to games. And I'm just kind of looking at the whole situation, be completely honest with you. And is it really that big for you to have ray tracing? You know what I'm saying? Is it really that big? You know, I don't know. I don't know. Is it really a thing where you need? I think people look at ray tracing and they think it's a big thing. To me, if you get a stable frame rate, because there's different pieces of ray tracing, because you can't just have a one size fit all because these consoles and PCs are just not powerful enough. So one of the things before I get into it, I want to say I'm thankful that they have day and night cycles that takes this game to another level. And to be honest with you, it's gonna be bought. It is coming out a day after my birthday, so yes, I love it. So my thing is this: how much of an impact would ray tracing have if it's like reflections? You know what I'm saying? Is it really that much of an impact? What about ray traced shadows? You know what I'm saying? So now you get cleaner shadows and stuff like that. That may have a visual impact more so than just reflections because not everything reflects. And then lastly, you got the global illumination, which I think is the most important. I wonder what they're going to be doing. So the hierarchy is this. Basically, um, you have ray trace ambient occlusion, which is the easiest. Well, let me go back. Sound, ray trace sound, where they trace the rays of sounds. That's the easiest that a processor can do. Next step up is the ray trace global. I'm sorry, ambient occlusion. That's easier, or it's a little harder. Then you have ray trace shadows. That's more hard. And then you have um, global illumination, and then you have reflections. So you can't have all of that together, at least not with these particular processors and stuff like that. But you gotta look at it like this. You look at Horizon Forbidden West, and that looks gorgeous. How much would ray tracing really benefit that one, other than global illumination? You just gotta ask yourself that question. But that's it for me. I think this video has gone on long enough. I hate the fact that it's broken up in two pieces, but whatever. We just going to keep it rolling. I want to say this too. I am under the weather. I am under the weather. I don't know if it's COVID, and I don't know if it's cold. I haven't been sick for 2 years, so it could be either one of those things. I don't feel terrible. I just feel a little bit run down, especially I just came from the gym. I'm still doing my gym thing, but I am getting my rest though, so need not to worry there. But deuces, I'm gonna go and do some music. Peace out.